Hello everyone, welcome to Book 2, Night 12 of the Orphan's Tales Live Quarantine Reading Series. It's good to see everyone again. Been a crazy day for me on social media. I wrote a little something that went viral and everything's been blowing up all weekend, so that's been nuts. So if you're here from Twitter, hi, I'm Kat. Nice to meet you. I posted this thing at like midnight last night. I guess I haven't mentioned in 10 years or something that I have these incredible scars. It's just not a thing that comes up. Sometimes people see them at cons because I'm wearing a skirt or something and they're shocked because they really are quite dramatic. I said I would not show them on Instagram. I'm not going to, but I will show you the one on my shoulder, which is representative. In a second. So it's been nuts with the kinds of people that are retweeting it. And of course, the Orphan's Tales is entirely about what I was talking about. It's about lies and the truth and perception and who speaks and the stories that people prefer. So I suppose it's all just appropriate and feeding into each other. And here we are on a Sunday night. I'm exhausted. I've been working all day like crazy. I actually just came home to everything blowing up because I've been working on the book. I'm so close to being done. My brain is entirely blah. So let's hope I can keep it together for a whole reading tonight. The lipstick is mulled maple from Bite, to get that out of the way. The wine is Chianti from Trader Joe's, to get that out of the way. Let's get into it. Oh, I'll show you the scar. Okay, so I have on my legs. I have a huge one on my right thigh. I'm missing a significant portion of muscle there. So not only is it a hideous scar, my leg goes like that. It is not cool at all. I have another big V-shaped one on my right shin. I have them across my right knee, and then on my left calf as well. I have one on my hand that you can barely see, although that's the one I remember being awake for during the surgery, because it was entirely not anesthetized at all. Yes. Heath points out that I have now broken every wine glass in the house but one. I had such a good record with wine glasses. I was never the one that broke them, and then I have just been on a Godzilla-like rampage over the last couple of months, and now we have no wine glasses except this lonely, sad one left. But okay, so I have one on my shoulder here. Hopefully you can see it. I don't know if you can. I call it my paramecium. Because I had a very bad doctor. I don't know if you can see it in this light. I had a very bad doctor, so it's got all of its little stitch marks on either side and a big gash down the middle, and they're all like that. I was carted around to a number of plastic surgeons as a small child who all went, "Ooh, sorry, we can do better than that, but we can't fix it now. He already screwed it up." If you can see my little paramecium scar, that's sort of that writ large all over my legs. At least they've kind of earned their keep now, for once. Made me look good on the internet instead of making me look hideous to every child in my school. Good times. All right, so let me do my intro. As always, this is not legally an audiobook of The Orphan's Tales. This is a play, a one-woman show. You can get music based on these books at sjtucker.com. You can buy them at your local independent bookseller's web portal or Amazon or any of them, but I would prefer that you support your local bookstore. If you'd like to support mine, it's printbookstore.com. You can find me on Twitter talking about sharks and lies and Trump and the state of our modern world, and also probably making some stupid Sherlock Holmes joke. I don't know. At Kat Valente. You can subscribe to my Patreon at Kat Valente. I've got lots of new content going up there next week. You can catch up in the archive anytime you like at YouTube, which is Cat Valente Live. And you can ask me questions after the reading if you like. It works better if you think of what they are before I finish reading, so that you can just ask it right away and we can go right into the Q&A section. If you would like to drop a coin in the witch's hat, it would be deeply appreciated. Life is hard during COVID for freelancers, and anything that you could possibly give would mean a lot to this household. And I will thank you by name on the next stream if you do, unless you don't want me to, in which case I won't. I think that's it. I always forget something. God, it's hot in here. I don't know. I'm kind of looking forward to autumn just so that these readings will be a little cooler. And look at how my attitude has changed. Remember in March when I said, oh, we won't be doing these by late summer, so it won't even matter. We'll be doing these forever. Not forever though, because we are just about halfway through the last book here. Very close to the end of the first half of the Book of the Storm. So we've only got 30 pages left in the Book of the Storm, which we will not get all the way through tonight. But we'll get through on Wednesday. So we'll end the Book of the Storm on Wednesday night. We're definitely going to run out of book before we run out of COVID. 100%. I will probably find something else to read from at that point. I have plenty of old work, believe me. So we'll see what happens there. But we're 100% going to run out of this before we run out of COVID. So if it took us 13 nights to get through the first half of the book, and it takes us 13 nights to get through the rest of it, that's like only 6 more weeks or 7 more weeks of content. So we'll figure out something else to read from. Don't worry about it. All right, let's get started. We've got some big revelations coming tonight, and again, some real big bird energy. I feel like this book should actually just be called, Hey Guys, More Birds. That should just be the title. Just birds, 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 with exclamation points after each one. I don't know what my problem is. I genuinely don't. It never occurred to me how many birds there are in this. Birds are cool, but they're not that cool. Come on, 22-year-old cat, get with it. All right, here we go. The Tale of the Leaf and the Snake, but also secretly a bird. I looked down out of the dark, where light held hands with light. I remember the looking and the first searing step out of the sky, how it hurt so, how I cried out for my mother as I fell. They caught me in their green, my limbs so raw and full of light, slashed to ribbons, bleeding out of the pits of my knees, the hollows of my elbows, the nape of my neck, all the places where a hole can tear. I bled and I wept. We all did. We wanted to burrow into the world, but we didn't know how it would hurt. And the snakes were there, their green and their white and their black, their red and their gold, their sheltering hoods, their comforting tails. I looked at them, how they stopped up my wounds with their little mouths, how they warmed me with skin that had baked on flat rocks in the sun, how they hissed and sang their whispering songs. I looked at them, and I wanted to be like that. I wanted to be able to move like that, to undulate, to hiss and sing and have colors like that. They were as beautiful to me as anything had been since the dark. And while my brother was sharpening himself into a harpoon, I lengthened and stretched and arched my back and coiled until all of me was a coil, long and green and grinning. And where I first slithered, stepping lightly into a snake's body, I crushed beneath me a tea bush with delicate leaves, and thought no more of it than a woman who breaks a twig underfoot while running through a forest. I was not there when the Manikarnika died, but I heard them cry out. We all did. I slid over the hills and away with the rest. I did not want to be alone. So many of the smaller stars saw my coils and, delighted, shivered into their own. We cloistered together, we ate sparrows and mice whole, or capons and honey as was our liking. Our shapes changed with the hour. We were fluid as rivers, and we were not alone. I knew his face when he came. Of course I knew it. Even a star dreams. I have been dreaming a long time, and I watched the glittering cord of that man's life spool out until it intersected with mine, and how the sparks lit the grass at my feet. I looked at this man and I thought, oh, how we are going to hurt each other. But stars, you know, are fixed in their courses. We can no more change the throttling paces of orbit than a rabbit can shorten its ears. I saw his cord lashing and snapping in the dark and could do nothing. A moth told me the day I was going to die. I sat in my room and my children were all around me playing with toy swords and real ones, depending on their age, lolling about, their skins flushed green with relief. Their father had left us alone for a day, and we could relax into serpents, let our scales show through. We had each other, and no one would disturb us. I sat at the window. The wind came through off the tea fields, sweet and brown at the edges. My son was mending the hem of my dress, his mouth full of pins. My daughters played chaturanga, their shoulders warm as diamondbacks in the sun. Some other of my boys chased a white kitten I had brought them, their eyes bright and hungry. We were not alone, not ever. I wiped the youngest's nose and told her to keep her tongue in her mouth. The pink and forked thing licked in and out feverishly. These are the things a mother does. Did not the sky once wipe our noses and tell us to stand up straight? Did not the blackness of our mother admonish us to raise our voices and be curious, be bold, to look after one another when curiosity and boldness failed? Did she not tell us she loved us and that we were never alone? In the dark, at the beginning of the world, she said those things, and I said them to my children, though the words often stuck in my mouth, and I did not expect to say them. When I burned incandescent beside my brother, and not beneath that snapping cord, that man whose breath stank of frightened women, and into whom my light leached and leached and leached. I did not want children. They were a poor substitute for what I lost. Did the sky feel the same? Is that why she left us? But I looked at them that day, and I knew they came from me, that he chewed a hole in me, and they swelled up so bright, so bright. And they are why I did not leave. Perhaps I do not understand my mother, but I think that is not unusual. I sat by the window, and my hand was green as vines on the sill. The moth landed on my forefinger, nailless now and scaled. His wings were pale brown with circles like marks left by cups on old wooden tables. He was not special. Perhaps neither was I. I wore him for a moment like a jewel before he turned his furry head up to me and spoke, his voice susurrine and small twigs rubbing against dry leaves. If you will not eat me, I will tell you a thing. Why would I eat you, little moth? The insect paused, his feelers twitching. You are a very large snake. At least some of you is. And you would make a very small meal. I am grateful. The tale of the bird's tears. We know because of the birds. In Amberabad there was a moth with yellow wings like a wolf's eyes, and she drank the tears from the eye of a sleeping hunting hawk. The tears were cloudy and sweet like dandelion milk. In Muran there was a moth with black wings like the back of an otter, and he drank the tears from the eye of a sleeping pelican. The tears were blue and clear like the ice from a frozen river. In Shadukiam there was a butterfly with wings like spun glass, and he drank the tears from the eye of a sleeping parrot. The tears were red and glimmering like the petals of a rose. In Ajanab there was a moth with grey wings like the dust on a book's cover, She drank the tears from the eye of a sleeping mynah bird. The tears were yellow and dusty like saffron. In Allanua there was a butterfly whose blue wings were streaked in white, and she drank the tears from the eye of a sleeping swan. The tears were bloody and dark and salty, a thing not to be touched. Near a castle in the center of the 8 kingdoms, there was a moth with great flapping wings that cast delicate shadows, and he drank the tears from the eye of a sleeping goose. The tears were grey and slow. In Jinistan, there was a dragonfly with a body all of black and green, and he drank the tears from the eye of a sleeping aileron. The tears were sharp and piquant, as though teeth had been ground into them. In Hoaka, there was a moth with grey wings like blown ash, and he drank the tears from the eye of the sleeping ptarmigan. The tears were rosy and thin, like a girl's perfume. In the city of Lament, there was a very small moth with the whitest wings you ever saw, and she drank the tears of a sleeping hoopoe, and the tears were soft and fine like the hair of children. In Ursul, there was a butterfly with no wings at all, who with her very last strength drank the tears from the eye of a sleeping sparrow. The tears were spicy and thick, but they did her no good. In Kash, there was a moth with wings all flaming and smoking, and he drank the tears of the sleeping phoenix, which were molten white like a blade not yet born. In Urim, there was a moth with wings like mourning veils, and he laid them over the eyes of the dead. He drank from the tears of a blood-cold kingfisher. The tears were red as apple skins, blue as moonlight. In Nahara, there was a moth with wings like a church window, full of brilliant greens and reds and blues. She drank the tears from the eye of a sleeping loon, and the tears were black and thick, like an ebony sill. And in Varahasand, there was a moth with brown wings, like 100 other moths, and he drank the tears from the eye of a sleeping peacock. The tears were blue and green and gold, like the skin of a snake, and his name was Fahad, and he came to this window, his belly full of tears. What do the birds dream that make them weep so? We might have asked, but they are quick to eat and not to converse. Instead, we flutter over the face of the world. In every dusty pocket and lantern halo, we drink their grief and taste their mourning in the draught. Eggs that fall from the nest and break on the grass, terrible strands of yolk flung from blade to blade, not enough seeds in the winter, falcons with claws that snatch fish which are too clever by half. We have known these sorrows. But once in a long while, there are flavors of other miseries floating there. It took all the tears I have mentioned and more for us to taste the whole of it. We brought them clinging to 1,000 proboscis, like diamond necklaces, to the cistern at the center of Elinistan, the city of insects, which is a place you are not permitted to know. There is a flame which does not burn the wing, webs which do not tear, rivers of sugar there, sugar water trickling through mossy stones. The hives make honey for joy in its gold and not for the hungry mouths of men. There ants may rest, for winters do not scour us, nor is any sweet thing rare. There are so many flowers there, my lady, you cannot even imagine. And in the center of Elinistan there is a cistern where the ants and beetles and termites hollowed a stump so smoothly and perfectly that anyone might be proud to write upon its walls as though they were the finest paper, save that the stranger should be promptly devoured by spiders for the offense. And once in a long while, the drinkers of tears commune there to understand the sorrows of the birds who are also not permitted to know the way to Elinistan. So we let our tears fall, one by one, blue by white, by red, by green, by yellow, into the cistern until it is full to brimming, and we can look in its waters and see the shape of the thing that the birds mourn. In the cistern, O lady, O star, O lost and lonely thing, I saw your face, and knew that your course would pass under the ground, where only the worms go, to whatever pale blind city they call their own, and which I am not permitted to know. The tale of the leaf and the snake continued. The moth regarded me for a moment. Will you not weep, lady? Do you not care? I am more interested, friend Fahad, in the existence of a place which I am not permitted to know. He will come for you this evening, this very one. And he will find us dressed in our very best, as befits children awaiting a visit from their father, and a wife her husband. I put my hand very gently to the moth's wings and stroked the fine hairs. Stars burn out, little moth. But surely you know this story. Surely you danced it, or sang it, or heard it at your mother's breast. I am so common these days. Everyone speaks in my voice. I did not burn out. Mother, why did you not let me? You could have stitched me together again as though the hole was never there, and I could have forgotten what it felt like to tear myself out of you, what it felt like to have children tear themselves out of me, what it felt like to dribble light into a man's mouth night after night, what my children looked like as they faded to nothing, what I looked like too. I did not burn out. I came to the lakeside where I suppose now all things come. There was a sorry little dock, in dire need of new paint, and a low tide, frothing grey water, and sandpipers fishing for fleas. What sort of fleas do they find here, I wonder? I walked the shore, and my elbows were damp. I was stuck between woman and snake, my body twisting out of one and into the other. Did my mother wish to indicate that I should have made up my mind? I've already said I do not understand her. She probably had nothing to do with it. I walked the shore, and I could see the ferryman coming. I could see his raft and his ruined mast. I could see his pole. And when he moored at the dock, I stepped forward and climbed aboard. But the air thickened like cream around me, and there were hands on my chest pushing me back. Dimly in the fog, I could see the faces of my girls, my loves, my little stars, their beautiful eyes burning up the air. They put out their hands to me, and I took them as I used to. They were cold, but women's hands are often cold. How many times do I remember breathing on them, rubbing them red again? They would not let me pass. They opened their mouths in unison, and I saw that their tongues were cut out. They pressed on me in unison, and I staggered. And in the throng I could see two, one with no eyes and one with no ears, who cried out louder than any. They pushed and wept, and their laments were like stones thrown after an unwanted child. They pushed me back from the shore, and the ferryman watched but made no move. They pushed me back and back and back to the wet green jungle and the red towers. And I opened 144 pairs of eyes. They pushed me into those bodies who had eaten me, chewed me to gristle, and still held me in their swilling bellies. It felt so strange to move 144 pairs of arms. They seemed to pinwheel all around me. I could not keep them steady. I looked with my eyes into my eyes into my eyes, and it was me in all of them. I could smell pig's flesh, always, always. They swallowed me down. I lived inside them like a child, and in the core of each of them, under the pig's heart and the pig's squealing lungs and the pig's starving stomach, was the little white blade of the pig's tooth. Only my husband was empty of that tooth, and him I could not bear to smell or hear or touch. But the rest were a smoky labyrinth of pig and man, and I writhed through it, flashing green at their boiled and festering pinks. I'm tired, the boar's tooth said. I am sorry for you, I answered. I was only hungry. I didn't mean to eat all those maidens, all those boys, all those horses, but I was so hungry. What beast is blamed for its hunger? Only me. Cut me up like breakfast and pulled all these creatures out of me, and now I am hungrier still. I eat for 145. My belly growls in 145 skins, and I am so tired. I am sorry for you, I said in the depths of those 145. He cut me up too, like supper, and pulled children out of me, and I am tired too. If I were myself again, I would eat him and be sated. Would you like me to help you? Yes. Oh, yes. But surely you know this story. Surely you danced it, or sang it, or heard it at your mother's breast. I am in everyone's mouth these days, just as I was then. My brother saw to my body. It is in a cave somewhere, I think. Sometimes I smell dripping water and old stones, even now. I came again to the lakeside, and this time no one put a hand to my chest or wailed to my ear. It was empty, and the wind wheedled the stones. No one came for me. I was alone. The dock had been painted. The sandpipers seemed fat. My hair was wet this time, wet with belly and tears. I waited a long time, but the ferry came, dragging dark water behind it. I came from the lake to the isle. I came from the isle to the thing which is not a village or a town or a city. I huddled in the low grey houses, cold and alone. It was not pleasant, but it was not unpleasant. At least he was gone, and I only moved my own eyes and not 145 pairs of eyes. I called out for my mother, but she did not answer. I called out for my children, but they did not answer, though a low scratching came at the ramshackle door. I opened the door, my own hand so bright against the grey. I do not know what I expected, but what I saw was a young woman whose body was covered in diamonds so that she had no skin which was not jewels, no pink or brown about her. Her hair was a river of ice. Around her were 14 slips of light with no faces, like candles lit in a chapel. "I'm sorry," the diamond girl said. Her voice was so familiar to me, though I had never heard it. "They never grew up, you know. They wanted to find you. They are drawn to you, Mother Moth. They don't really understand. They don't really speak. They are just light, light which knows it was once something else, but which cannot quite recall. But you called them, and I brought them. They did want to come." My children glowed around me in a ring, and little Diamond, bright as a burning pyre, smallest of the Manicarnica, folded me in her arms. "There are so few of us who ever died. This is a sparse and lonely place. But we are all together, and some reflection of our light floats around us like lamps shining in a pool. My girls are here, my grass snake stars, and my copperhead stars, and my cobra stars, my loves and my oracles, and we wander as we used to, our little cloister, and I am never alone." "Who built the houses?" I asked Diamond once. She shook her head. "They were here. How should we know how to build houses? I think," she blushed, and the diamonds in her face flushed into rubies for a moment, "I think It'll built them for us. Surely there must be days when no one dies." I would like to say time passed, but I cannot be sure. I would like to say, one day I met 2 men walking between the birch trees. But what is day? And what is night? It is always dark here, some anonymous kindness to remind us of the cradle of the sky. And so all I can say is that it happened sometime and somewhere among the white trees in the dark. 2 came walking hand in hand. They were both as bright as I, but I did not know them. Their skin was red and deeply grained like wood, and when we clasped hands in greeting, their fingers were hard as a raft's planks. They wore sailors' rags over identical bodies, and their eyes were wood-warm and gentle, lined a little at the corners, but perhaps that was just the grain of their skin. Reddish hair flopped over twin foreheads like thready bark. "We are Ito," they said in unison. One's voice was deep and the other's high like a child's, but beyond that they were the same in every fashion. "We were the twinned star once, and in this place we have been made to walk 2 by 2. We do not find it unpleasant." They spoke always together, and it was only strange to me for a while. He had been translated into twins as I had into my half-snake self, and their skin had gone the shade of their raft. They told me the tale of their raft and their death, the fox girl, and I held them while they cried for the lost craft and the lost world. We are all so lost, so broken. The least of us would hold the smallest as we wept. I told them the tale of my husband and my children who still followed me like confused will-o'-the-wisps. The young men looked at me with chagrined, resigned eyes, as though they expected no more than this, and held 4 red arms out to me. I did not know what they meant. I told them of the boar men and how the voice of the boar tooth sounded, and how the women stopped me at the shore. They folded me into their wooden arms on the floor of the forest, and I lay stiffly against them. I did not cry. Snakes do not. But I was grateful for them, for their circuit of arms, and because they had not sought me out, to show me their love, to make certain I was not alone, to show me some ill-got devotion, to disturb me in the dark. I softened against them, and they stroked my hair. I told them how I was just once alone on the lakeside, the second time, when no one came for me. My children lay around us in a ring like glowing, insensate mushrooms. I am not a raft, I said, and the twins chuckled. We are not a king, they answered. It was difficult to tell them apart unless they spoke, which was not often. One of them became my lover, and his deep voice sounded in my bones. The other was harder, more raft-like. He was simply kind to me, his child's voice, rare and thin. He helped me molt once, when there was almost something like a moon above the aisle. He came to me, having cut himself on the hinge of my door, and touched my lips with a light smeared thumb. It tasted of salt and wood. The other twin was with me always, and his kisses were red and dusty and gentle. They tasted like the sea. We walked in the wood, and once in a while red fruit appeared on the trees like ambassadors from some far-off spring, and we all ate together, and I was not alone. I am not alone. Who could think I have ever been alone? But a girl came with a bloody stump where her tail should be, telling me how lonely I am with her huge, needy eyes, clutching a leaf in her hand. I knew the leaf in a moment. I had seen it in the tea woman, the distant child of leaves I had crushed when I first fell. She brought it to me as though it would mean something, to return my own light to me, like a child's doll which was discarded long ago, one eye missing, one arm empty of stuffing. I placed the leaf against my skin, and it melted back into me where it belonged, and I thought no more of it. Offered the girl my house, my red fruit, though she would not eat, the ungrateful thing. Perhaps it did mean something after all, because it was only afterward that my belly grew. I cannot tell if it was the light of one twin, or the kisses of the other, or the leaf itself, or the girl who had brought it, that filled me up with child again. Perhaps it was all of them, perhaps none. But I am not alone, even in my own skin. And we will pick up there next week with The Midwife's Tale and a couple of other little last-minute reveals before the end of the book. I hope everyone enjoyed that. Does anyone have any questions? We're really sort of bringing everybody back in. The gang's all here as we approach the end of the book. We're on page, for those of you who are reading along at home, we're on page 233, 234. Yeah, so we'll finish up the Book of the Storm next week and start on the Book of the Scald, where things are much more cheerful. I mean, yes, things will be on fire and burning, but much more cheerfully. Oh my god, it's so hot. Oh, it's so hot. Okay, well, I will do my outro. If nobody has any questions, that's fine. If you do, pop them up into the chat, and I will answer them when I'm done. For legal reasons, this is not an audiobook of the Orphan's Tales. This is a play, one-woman show. You can get music based on these books at sjtucker.com. You can buy copies of them wherever books are sold, but please patronize your local independent booksellers' web portals. If you would like to support mine, it is printbookstore.com. You can find me on Twitter, ranting and raving most days at Cat Valente. You can subscribe to my Patreon at Cat Valente, which will have a bunch of new content coming out in the next week. You can catch up in the archive at Cat Valente Live, which usually updates around a day after this airs. And if you are so moved and you would like to toss a coin to your witch, there's a tip jar on my Instagram profile, my YouTube profile, and my website, which is catherinemvalente.com. These are absolutely free. You don't have to, but freelancing sucks, and anything you can contribute would be deeply appreciated, and probably at this point go toward my getting a new microphone, because all of my sound equipment kind of sucks right now. So I very much appreciate anybody who does contribute, and I will thank you by name on the next stream. What is my favorite kind of snake? I hate snakes. I hate snakes and I hate bugs. So I've really done a great job of signing myself up for a lifetime of snake and bug gifts. No, there are pretty snakes out there. I don't like snakes. I don't know. The prettier the color, the better, really. So I don't know, we'll go with Diamondback. Do I have performance rights of all my books? Well, no, because we've sold Space Opera has sold a movie option, Refrigerator Monologues has sold a television option, Deathless had an option sold, but it expired. So, no, we've sold some of them. Everything else, I have the performance rights, but that's why I keep saying, for legal reasons, this is not an audiobook. I do not have the audio rights to the Orphan's Tales. I have the performance rights for it. So this is legal as long as it is a play. It is not legal for me to record an audiobook of this book. So that's the sort of needle we're threading here. But most of my books, I do retain the performance rights unless I have sold them to some corporation. Is there a reason I chose to bring the Gemini constellation to the story? I mean, Gemini is actually Castor and Pollux, which is this whole Greek story. For those of you who don't know your Greek god genealogy, Castor and Pollux are actually not only identical twins, but they are the brothers of Helen and Clytemnestra, who are twin sisters. Most people don't put two and two together, but they all four of them came out of Leda and the Swan. So they were hatched out of swan eggs. I mean, this is all from the original sources. This is what my degree's in. And so I love the motif of twins that flows, twins that are not born out of a human body. They're usually out of eggs in Greek mythology. And so that's definitely how Ito came in. Ask Shannon Maguire. Shannon definitely has a favorite snake. Shannon and I are very, very good friends. We do not have the same opinions on the creepy crawlies, and respecting each other's opinions on them has kept our friendship safe and sane and consensual. No, I'm really bad with spiders, actually, which there's a big spider story coming up in the last half of the Orphan's Tales. And I mean, not to praise myself, but I do write about the things that I'm scared of. Like, I don't ban them from my books. God, I had years of insect presence because of palimpsest, and people do not realize how deathly afraid of insects I am. So good job, self. But, the art demands what the art demands, and if it needs a bug, it gets a bug. Yes, Shannon does talk about her college snakes. I just got bit by bad people in college. So I guess that makes me a bad person now. I don't know. Does it work like zombies or like vampires? Anyway, thank you all for tuning in tonight. I am going to go and just collapse into a heap of human now, because I have just spilled out everything I have today. I'm so tired. And I hope to see you on the internet. We will be back here on Wednesday night to finish up the Book of the Storm. Same fairy tale time, same fairy tale channel, 8:30 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. Thank you all. Love you guys. I'll see you soon. Bye.